This woman at the end of class, it was so beautiful. She came up and she just looked at me in the eyes. So she was like, I never knew how to express my anger. She's like, I've never known how to let it come out.
Right.
And her eyes started to water because she was like, thank you for giving me a place to do that.
Hey everyone, it's Laurie and Dana from Table 6, the podcast where we invite you to pull up a chair and discover the people and passions that are shaping downtown Toronto into one of Canada's most dynamic districts. You know, Dana, this one really hit home for me.
Yeah.
It was very emotional, very transformative. Our guest on this episode is Ashley Bryant. She's a guide at Othership. And I don't think you've been yet,
I
right?
have not been, but after this episode, like, I definitely need to get in there. Like, it sounds like something that I've never heard of before. And just, you know, being in a space, a social setting, and doing things like the cold plunge and tapping into emotions, all of that seems like very unheard of.
Vulnerable.
Like, yeah, you're gonna, which I think is so important, right? Because
Yeah.
I think we just in these days we're always tuned into our devices, we're always on the go, and we don't take the time to actually stop and really connect with our emotions and check in with ourselves. So
Yeah, it's really become like a cultural hub where I feel like you're getting that physicality release,
yeah.
but also emotional support. I know for me, I had like a full breakdown in the sauna, so you'll hear more about that on the episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really cool space.
Yeah. And I think what's so important about that in this day and age, like, you know, this area is known for all of the social activity that goes on here, and everyone can see that at nighttime. But being able to have a space that is about wellness, and Othership being really about this idea of being a social, sober club, I think is so important. It's a trendy thing now, but I
Yeah.
think it's something that's here to stay as people are really looking for ways to, you know, get from behind their devices and really just connect with community. So I love it.
Absolutely. It's definitely gaining a lot of popularity. I'm so proud that Toronto was the first Othership location, and now
Yeah.
it's, you know, expanding into New York. So what do you say we cold plunge into this episode, Dana?
I love it. Let's go for it.
So without further ado, check out our episode with Ashley Bryant from Othership. Ashley, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Thanks so much for joining. Othership has had a tremendous reception. UFC President Dana White has called it the greatest place on earth. It's kind of like Disney.
Yeah.
Can you paint a picture for us and walk us through the journey of what people can expect when they come into Othership?
Yeah, of course. So first I'll start more with the classes that we offer. So when you do come into the space, we'll all meet in the lounge area, the commons. That's where you can have a cup of tea before I come out and introduce the class. So there each class has some kind of different theme. We have classes that are more up, where it's more high energy. And then we have classes that are down, which are more grounding and resetting. So that's usually where we do our introduction for the class. We also let anybody know what it's going to look like. So we usually spend about 20 minutes in the sauna together as a group. And then from there, as in groups, we actually head to the cold space. So we go to the ice baths, and then we head back into the sauna. So we just kind of let them know what's about to happen. We use the extremes. So Othership is about that. We use the extreme of the heat and the extreme of the cold. And then we push past these very uncomfortable feelings.
I can attest.
Very. But to all of these amazing benefits on the other side. And I do share this story. I remember my first time going there, and I got into the tub, and I was, you know, the girl with 17 layers in the summer still. And I got in, and it was such an incredible experience. I think I lasted maybe 10 seconds. But when I got out, I was like, oh, I think I need to keep coming back
wow.
here. So
Yeah.
it was
You were
very cool.
hooked.
I was hooked.
So when you go into the sauna, first of all, how hot is it?
So there's different ranges. So for classes, we usually try to keep it about 82 degrees. The reason for that is that we are in there for a longer period of time. But if, for say, like you want to just come to a free flow, which is where you get to go at your own pace, that's when we have it usually set about 90 degrees.
Ooh,
yeah. So
okay.
it's spicy.
That's spicy.
Yeah.
And I know from my experience going there, there's this beautiful aromatherapy giant snowballs. I also want to know how you make those. But you throw them on the stove and you describe, you know, the aromatherapy that's in there. And then you do this beautiful towel waving dance.
Yes. So that's one of the biggest parts, I think, of the experience. So we have so many essential oils back at the ship that we get to blend based on what we want the experience to be. So for example, I might use lime and bergamot and pair them together in a snowball. So when I drop it, I also get to explain that this blend is energizing, but it also allows you to feel grounded and maybe present, calming effect. So each one has something different that it offers. And then my favorite thing is our towel waving. So the reason for the towel waving is that we actually get to use the heat with the blend of the essential oil to wave it towards the journeyers that are sitting in the sauna benches. And also when we do wave our towels, I'm showing you the example of my pretend towel, but I get to bring the heat from the air and bring it down onto everybody that's there. And I have to tell you, every time I do it, somebody just like the biggest smile appears on their face. And I know for me too, it's just this beautiful like hit of heat as well as that smell that's just, incredible.
It's so addictive. Like, I think that's one of my favorite parts is the aromatherapy. And also just there's this signature scent coming into Othership. Literally even just walking by it on Adelaide, you get this waft coming out. I don't know where it comes from. It's just like, you know, it's this beautiful scent.
It really is. And also I think so many people talk about it, but you know, all of us live in a busy city and TTC might not be as, cooperative as we'd like it to be. So you're like, might be like rushing to get to class or teach class. And then as soon as you open that door and you hit that scent, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I don't need to be, I can be zen.
Little zen.
So,
Little zen. Yeah, that's awesome. And the higher you sit in the sauna, the hotter it gets.
Yeah, and that's the important part too. So we are always very communicative of that, but it is about pushing yourself. So the reason for that is that getting all those toxins out of your system. I always say when people come in, you know, we're described on Google as a spa, but we really are not about that light sweat. It is really intense. We want to get all of that out. And also that's when the benefits start to kick in.
Yeah.
A lot of people also, and I say this often, is that a lot of fear around the cold, but the hot can be just as challenging. If you really are pushing yourself, you're in there and you're like, oh, wow, I have to slow down my breath. I have to make sure, I can get through this, the next 5 minutes of a class, let's say, which I think also challenges us in a way to just be like, wow, I did that. I was able to do that.
I remember one time I was in there and it was getting a little toasty for me. Yeah. And I had to push myself. I thought, okay, I think we're almost at the end of the session. I think I can last, but if it goes on much longer, I'm gonna have to exit. But I noticed your hat. It's adorable.
Thank you.
Talk to us about the hats and how does that help people while they're in the sauna?
So this one's actually more for our winter outings. So we also do some lake plunges as well. Othership is about also supporting charities and just an amazing community.
Yeah.
Kind of sidetracking, but we did, I think it was in November, we did a lake plunge together, and there was 800 people that turned out.
Wow.
And it was incredible.
That's
so
amazing.
You see a lot of us with these colored hats or even brighter, I think. And so it was an amazing experience. It was probably one of the best epic highs that I think all of us had. So that's for these hats. We also have sauna hats though. The reason that we have these is for a couple of reasons. One, it actually keeps you cooler when you're in the sauna.
Really?
Yeah. So every time people are like, ask me about it, first of all, they're very cute.
They're very cute.
Very cute.
Yes.
It actually does keep you cooler because it is insulated. So usually our heat starts to rise. And and also it helps protect our hair.
Interesting.
So you can last. Yeah, exactly.
I look over at those people wearing those hats and I thought, you're crazy. Like, you must be hotter. And I was like,
no,
not for me.
No, it keeps you in longer. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. And sometimes it's completely dark. We go into the darkness. There might be a candle. Yeah. Talk to us about why the darkness impacts your experience in the sauna as well.
Yeah, it's for me, it's because I teach a few classes, and I think it's an element that is so powerful. Usually, so I'm going to use my example of class. So I pair the darkness with the instrument of the gong, and we are able to let out some sound. Yes. So as I play the gong, I say, what is it that we want to let go of today? What have we been carrying around that isn't helping us in our life?
Yeah.
And there is something about being in that dark on top of the sauna and the heat, which already loosens our inhibition, that allows us just that permission
To release.
to release.
Yeah.
And not worrying. We're in, again, a society where we're always thinking,
Yeah.
how do I look? How do I behave? Am I,
Yeah.
how do people, receive me? All of these things. And the other day, I just feel called to share this woman at the end of class. It was so beautiful. She came up and she just looked at me in the eyes. So she was like, I never knew how to express my anger. She's like, I've never known how to let it come out.
Right.
And her eyes started to water because she was like, thank you for giving me a place to do that. And that's why I do think it's important to, have a space. We have all of these emotions as humans, and then we have to kind of go like, no, I'll just deal with them over here. Or
Yeah. Your dad says, keep them in a box.
yes, Dad, I love you. And that was, it's a different time. It's a different generational experience now where, most of my life, that's how he got through things. And my dad is an extraordinary man, and he, was able to do that. Where I think for us now, it's like, it's okay to come out and have this emotional regulation. I get really passionate, as you can tell. I'm like already heated up about it, but I am so passionate about this work because where else do we get to go to have these releases, to check in and go, oh, you know what, I'm really angry.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sad today, or even joy. All of these feelings we get to experience as humans.
Yeah.
We're so busy and it's so loud. We get to go like, how am I?
Mm-hmm.
And like really get to ask that, and then process it through whatever vocal release, breath work, movement, whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I find for me, sitting in the dark, it allows you to kind of just let your inhibitions completely go.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're so worried about, how do we look? Do we fit in? There, when you're in the dark, I don't know, it's something special. Just something comes over you where you're just free. And you teach a sound immersion class.
I do, yeah.
And you just mentioned the gong, but you also have an incredible singing voice, like truly an angel. And you play guitar. And I was there one day, this was about a month ago, and I was in the class, unbeknownst to me. I just came in, just a regular class, and the lights went off, and you picked up the guitar and you started singing. And I was with my friend Chad, and we were just sitting there in the dark. And I'm not sure if it was the prompts that you were saying, like check in with how you're feeling, but I just remember sitting there, and the tears were just flowing down my face. And I lost my mom 4 years ago. And I just remember I couldn't help myself, and but it also felt so safe. And I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm very aware that there's other people around me. I'm in this sauna with 65 strangers, except my one friend. And I don't know, the darkness allowed me to tap into that. And it's not like I walked in the sauna thinking, I'm sad today.
Yeah.
It just came up.
Yeah.
And I think that was what was the most surprising. And it was a tap, and it turned on, and I couldn't stop. Yeah. And then we left, we went into the cold, and I remember like we were at the showers, and I told my friend, I said, I just had a full on mental breakdown. And he said, well, you know that this is a voice class. And I said, yes. And he said, I think that means there's still some things that you haven't said to your mom. And I said, Oh, I know that this is what happened. I'm in the sauna, and all of the things that I didn't get to say to her, that I wish I could have had the chance to say to her, came up. Yeah. And that's, it was like 7,000 sessions of therapy, that I wasn't even expecting. And then we went into the cold, and then we'll talk about that in a moment, because that's a whole other mind F, if I may say. And then we came back into the hot, and again, I cried again. And then at the end of the class, you always ask us, does anybody want to share anything? Yeah. And I also, back in the day, took landmark courses where you're taught to share, because when you share, you help others and you impact other people. Yeah. So everybody was talking, and then I'm like, okay, I know I have to share. So I like very
Yes, I
timidly
remember.
raised my hand, and you called upon me, and I said, Ash, like your voice is so beautiful. And then I broke down again, and I said, but as soon as you started crying, as soon as you started singing, sorry, I just lost it. And then I'm, again, keep in mind, like I'm sitting beside strangers,
Yeah.
and people were like touching my shoulder and just comforting me. And it was really powerful. It was really powerful. And then, going back out into the lounge, people are coming up to me and like, giving their condolences or just saying like, thank you for sharing.
Yes.
I lost someone, and my friend said the whole energy in the room shifted. And it just felt like there was this communal like love and support that was just like enveloping me in that moment. So
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I do want to ask you actually, what, looking back, do you feel, what was it that you learned about, like you said about the voice, but is there anything else at the end that you kind of tuned in to your heart or your body?
Well, I hadn't grieved for my mom like that since she died.
Yeah.
Like I literally hadn't cried in 4 years the way that class allowed me to release.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest takeaway. Like you said, that it really just allows you, and I promised not to cry, but it allowed you to have that release.
Yeah.
And so I think, I've heard of other release classes where you're like shouting like an animal and you're making like, like, I haven't tried that one yet, but this was a down release.
Yeah.
But it was so therapeutic.
Yes. Well, and that's it. And also one thing, going back to the beginning question about the dark, is that, so the sauna already allows us to loosen up, right? And shed our inhibitions. And you pair that with the dark, there is this vulnerability of you do think you're kind of in your own space.
Yeah.
However, as soon as one person sniffles, it's this experience where it's like there's even more permission to feel, more permission to let go.
Yeah.
And again, I keep talking about this, but it's a space, as you just shared so beautifully, that I get to feel the emotions that are stored in my body.
Totally.
Because we have to, as humans, keep going, pushing through. But it's this experience that you go, as soon as I do release, as soon as I go into that depths of like, oh my God, this grief that I've been carrying, there's also a shift at the end of going, I haven't done that in a long time, and I needed it.
Yeah.
I needed that.
I went home that day. I had a friend with a coffee at Nut Bar beside Othership, and we had coffee, and I was just so like in a daze. I was just so out of it, and I had to go home and lie down on the couch for like hours. I was so mentally and emotionally drained, but in such a good way. Yeah.
Yes, and that's it. It's again a constant. Each class has a theme. It's each class is about what is it that either I need to pull out and learn about myself, right? Again, going inward, quieting all the voices and the voice, the busyness.
Yeah.
It's, and as I shared with you too, I feel for me now I'm segueing to the cold, but the cold has been a huge part of how I've processed grief.
Yeah.
And
so can we explain how the cold works?
Yeah.
And then I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So our tubs are anywhere between 0 and 4 degrees. So they are very cold.
You want to say that again?
Between 0 and 4. 0 and 4. Please know that. It was funny. I went somewhere else the other day and it was like 10 degrees and I was like swimming. I was like, this is nothing. This is nothing. Exactly.
There's still ice floating in the water. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's cold.
So the reason why everybody is now, so present to this type of modality is because when we get into the cold, number one, the shock on our system, we instantly go into a fight or flight.
Yeah.
And it shows up with our breath, tension, all of these things, right? I'm going to die. Like all of this stuff is going to happen. But we're retraining our brain, and this is why I'm very passionate about this work, is to learn how to deal with life or learn how to deal with this situation through breath work, through slowing down our thoughts. And the cold has all of these physical benefits as well. I mean, it helps with our immunity. It helps with our immune system. It also helps with inflammation. But it really is this like shock to the system that, you know, shifts our mood, shifts our state of being as well. So, yeah, I can go on for hours if you'd like me to. I'm happy to.
You come out feeling like such a badass.
Yes,
like you
total
get out of
badass.
that tub and you're like, I did it.
Absolutely.
I did it. And it's like a competition with yourself to make the 2-minute time.
Yeah.
You know, so you allow us to go, you can get out whenever you need to, but
Yeah. And sorry to interrupt, but jumping on there. That's one of the, and again, so many reasons why I love this work is that the amount of people that will come out to the tub and they're like, I'm only going to stay 10 seconds. And I'm like, okay. And I go, well, listen, I plunge every day. And I say, well, today I'm going to get in. Because what I love showing them is these thoughts that we have aren't always right.
yeah.
And so, you know, they step in, I guide them, they make it to 2 minutes and they step out and they're like, what? And again, like yesterday, a girl came up, I got her through 2 minutes and she was literally like walking out, came back to find me. She's like, I have never been able to do that. And like, she was so proud of herself. And so like, I did that.
Yeah.
And that's why whenever I need a reset, whenever I'm like, my mind's busy and is like doubting, a little fear, you know, all that stuff, I just get in, I get out. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
What do I need
Bring
to
it
do?
on.
Bring it on.
Bring it on.
If I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I can handle other things. So,
That's cool.
It's very, very powerful.
That's cool.
And the more that, this is the thing too, is like the more that you do it, the more you know how to use it as a tool. And I say that, which brings me back to, because I've been doing this work for so long, the awareness that I have about my emotions, my like how I'm feeling, I now get to go, ooh, something's up. I don't know what it is necessarily.
Yeah.
But I know that I need to either go do a plunge or, you know, because then that will go, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you might not be able to see right now,
Yeah.
but that's what was there. And you got to use it. Or if I'm, feeling like I need to have a cry of, you know, life's hard. It's up, it's down. It's all these beautiful things, but it's challenging.
Yeah.
So if I need that, I know, okay, I just have to go in, I'll step into that cold and I'll come back out. And, and so to bring up, I've also dealt with some grief.
Yes. Your grandma.
Yeah, my grandma, and currently my mother.
Oh,
so
sorry.
The reason I bring this up was that, I went into, it was happening and I went to the space and, you know, when you find out, someone is, dying, it's sorry to get heavy, but you go into survival. You go, okay, what do I need to do? How do I help? How do I
Fix it mode.
fix it
Yeah.
and be there and support others? But I got to the space and I needed to deal with my
Take care
stuff.
of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I got in, and when I stepped right out, I just wept.
Oh,
I just wept all of the, you know,
the heaviness.
Yeah. And then after that, it was like, okay, you know, I got to go back and I got to be there, but I've taken care of what I need to take care of, you know? And,
I think that's the beauty.
That's too.
No, I'm so sorry.
No.
I think the beauty about Othership too is that support that you give as guides to the community coming in, because doing the hot is one thing, but doing the cold is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And the support that you give the community to make people feel safe and overcome that fear, because a lot of people have never done that before. So that's pretty cool. Like
it's amazing. I love my job. People will come in and be like, you love your job. I'm like, I love my job.
You do.
Because you see somebody literally doing, you know, you're able to show somebody, you know, what they're capable of. Oh, it's the most beautiful thing. Or, you know, I have people leave and they're just like so proud of themselves.
Yeah.
So proud of themselves. And like, they'll come back to, like a week later and be like, hey, this happened in my life. And I was able to, like, I felt so good about this and this. And so you see that. And then, you know, you guide a class and you see someone quietly just allowing whatever needs to come up for them. And you just get to go, it's okay.
Yeah.
This is a place that you get to do that.
It's totally,
you know? Like,
it's totally, everyone's welcome.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm someone who doesn't prance around in her bathing suit, like, woo, look at me. But when I'm there, I feel super comfortable. And that I love that too.
Yes, because it's not about any of that. It's
Yeah.
just about, like, first of all, the biggest thing I think is community. I mean, on top of all of the benefits of the hot and the cold, but it is this space where like-minded people get to come. Like-minded people are like, I am here for the benefits, and some are maybe just for the, for the science.
Yeah.
You might just go like, I just want the cold and the hot, and that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
great. That's why everybody is welcomed. Use that. And then there are other people who are like, you know what, I want to come in, I want to get this from it, and I want to get this from it. It's like, great. Like, so you have this community that everybody is there for that. You get to know people. We see people chatting at socials or regulars, like people that have been coming often, meeting new friends. And
Othership has been a place for you to meet a lot of friends.
Yes, yeah, as we talked about before. I've been in Toronto for a really, very, very long time. And I would say that was one of my things, was that I didn't really have a community. Friends was always a really hard thing for me, especially as I was younger and dealing with my own things. And now I might cry.
There's Kleenex.
No, I know. I have met so many amazing people in my life because of Othership. I have so many friends now. I have female relationships that, I've dreamt of.
Yeah.
As a woman, sometimes it
can be lonely.
It can be lonely.
Yeah.
And like even just now, the outpouring of support or love, or like friends that I get to go over and be like, hey, you want to have dinner together? Like, I never had that. I know it sounds cheesy, but I traveled a lot. I have friends around the world, but Toronto I felt was really cold and hard. And
you founded another ship.
you did.
That's awesome.
And like, it's amazing. Like, and that's why it's fun too. Like New Year's, oh my gosh.
What's happening? What's happening in New Year's?
It was amazing. Like, I joined probably, working there probably over a year and a half ago, but the New Year's party that we have is epic. It's just like everybody comes together. We're doing the hot and the cold, but like as soon as we're about to do a countdown, we do some breath work and we take our snowball and we're like, what's our intention for the year?
Yeah,
and it's just like with
awesome.
everybody that you love and like to hang out with. I mean,
cool.
Couldn't be more perfect. So.
But New Year's without the alcohol.
This is
yes. Let's talk about sober social gatherings. Yeah. So you had mentioned to me that Robbie, the co-owner of Othership, Robbie Bent, he developed this concept by kind of looking at ways people connect and gather. Yeah. And he said, why is it bars? Why is that the only place where people are kind of going to chill with their friends? There must be a better way.
Yes, they found this way. Like I'm so adamant about this because I'm like, how is it also the only place you go is as a bar? And usually people have had drinks. And this is kind of circling around, but like I've had people be like, I brought somebody on my first date here or the second date, and they're like, we're still together. And I'm not saying like you can't do that from, going out different ways, but there's this thing about being really present with somebody. I'm not trying to judge alcohol, but I'm saying that there's this different space. You really get to show up and go like, well, this is me. This is me all the time.
You're super authentic.
Like, you're so authentic. Yeah. And also you're in the hot. So when you're there, you're also even more authentic. Some days I'm like, oh, am I feeling myself? I'll go in the hot, right? Like it's just this way of doing it.
Yeah. So there's no alcohol allowed.
No alcohol allowed.
Yeah.
And it is about, meeting people. And also for people who, just want that social like hit. Like I just want to be around people.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just want to come in and be like, hey, Ash, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
Like it just allows that community. Because I think another thing too, especially with the fitness world, and that's why I think there's a beautiful niche here, is that you go to your yoga class and you see the same people and you're like, oh, hey, like nice. But this is a place where you can actually go and be like, oh, hey, and hang out and chat more and like start to go like, oh, this isn't just like a hi at, a class. Yeah. It's really like, well, why don't we stay and hang out in the sauna? Oh, nice to meet you. Do you want to do a plunge together? Yeah. And then by the end, you've like sharing like everything.
You have a plunge buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've noticed a shift for me. Like with my friends, I used to go out for dinner all the time.
Yeah.
You're spending a lot of money, you're eating probably things you don't really want to eat, and you're drinking alcohol. Mm-hmm. And then with this now, I'm finding, hey, let's go to Othership. And then after we'll go and have, an oat latte and just catch up for the week. And it's just, you just leave, you feel good.
Yeah.
You know, it's just I don't know. For me, it's my new thing.
Totally. And I do have exactly, journeyers that come in and they're like once a week, new friend every time. And they're like, this is my place. But I also say this quite often to couples as well, because as a date night, I have to say it's brilliant because, life is busy, life is full, and people sometimes with kids too, but you go out for dinner, you're like, hey honey, how's it going over there?
Yeah.
Like versus going for, to the sauna, sitting beside each other, being able to be like, how are you? Like really, how's it going?
Is that where you think these sober gatherings, like really, what's the impetus for that, do you think, in today's society?
I just think the way, first of all, it's a big question. I think also if we just look at the timeline as well. So Othership opened, after the main parts of the pandemic.
Yeah,
and so,
in 2022.
Yeah. So we were craving it.
Yeah.
We were craving connection, vulnerability, really being with somebody. So I think that's from there, I think it's just been like, and I want to be around the same like-minded people.
Yeah.
Who I'm always joking. I'm like, I love the socials. We get a party, we get to hang out in bed by like 11. Perfect. Like, sign me up.
Yeah.
Like, that's fantastic. But I've talked, I've had fun, I've laughed, I've danced, I've done all those things and still get to go to bed.
Just a different shift. I feel like after COVID, people are spending a little bit more attention to their own wellness and well-being. And this is just such a great way to do it. Yeah. You get the social component and you feel amazing.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
You're expanding, but shout out to Toronto for being the first Othership location.
It's amazing.
So we're on Adelaide, and then we have our Yorkville location, but you've shortly or soon will be opening in New York City, which is so exciting. And then one in Brooklyn as well.
Yeah.
That's just incredible. How did it actually get started though?
So, Inward. Have you been to Inward?
No.
Okay. So Inward was the first location. This is in Robbie's garage.
I'm sorry. What?
It's in his garage.
Okay.
So
are there like cars and tires in there too?
No. So Robbie and his wife Emily, as well as Amanda and Harry, who they wanted to have a place where they could start to try and experiment with this kind of idea.
Okay, so they piloted it. In his garage.
So in his garage, and it's still up and running. So if you want to do more of like a inward experience, or if you're doing like a little birthday party and you want all your girlfriends to go or your friends, you can do that. But that's where they were just starting it out, because they started to see like, wait, this is actually something that could be bigger. And then that's when they started talking about Adelaide. And now, as you know, Yorkville's 64 people in a class, and it's expanded. So.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time I'm there and it's sold out. So you're doing something right.
Definitely. They figured it out. They figured it out. Yeah.
Do you want to give a quick plug for some of the classes that you teach?
Yeah. Yes. Or some that I love as well. As you can tell, I'm very high energy, so I like to take more of the grounding classes.
Yes.
So the one that I teach, sound immersion, I am very passionate about music and sound. And I do say this when I introduce the class, that music was always a part of my life where I got to process and express myself. So the fact that I get to do that with the hot and the cold is mind-blowing. And then I also teach a class called Loving Kindness. It's the second class they wrote, and it's stunning. It's based on metta, which translates to loving kindness, which is this meditation where we get to send love.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
The world needs more of that.
We need exactly. But there's so many classes, and again, for every different type. If you want to feel up and energized, you want to let some stuff go with that voice, or if you want to feel quiet, we just started a new class called Pure Presence.
Cool.
It's basically a very, very, it's like the most down class you could possibly take. So.
Okay. Are you allowed to sleep in the sauna?
Yeah. You sometimes fall asleep, but no. The goal is not to do that.
Awesome. Any final words of advice for people who haven't tried Othership? What would you say to kind of get them in to try it out?
Yes, so many things. I would definitely say the hot and the cold has changed my life. Energy, how I deal with things. I say this quite often, but once you learn how to deal with an ice bath, that's actually 2 degrees. you can translate that to what are the ice baths in my life?
Yeah.
What do I need to take on and what do I need to like work through and push through? So it's changed so much of the way that I respond to things. My family is like, what? Wow, what's going on?
Who are you?
Who are you? So just how I deal with life, energy, incredible. As soon as I step into that cold and I'm out, I'm just like, okay, let's
Yeah.
go. What do I want to take? What do I want to do? Where do
Yeah.
I want to be? And sleep. So all of these beautiful, physical things as well is why I think people should come try it out. And also, I feel like I also want to say, come and experience it for yourself.
Yeah. Don't knock it before you try it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm it's such a big thing for that because,
Yeah.
when I came there, I was like,
What is this
what
place?
is this place? What? And then
Yeah.
you try it and, maybe it's one or two experiences that you start to go, oh, I see. I see these little things start to add up of how,
Yeah.
how these benefits are
And
kicking
it's
in.
for men and women too, which I was surprised. I thought, oh, this is going to be full of women, but there's men too.
Yep.
Yeah.
All gendered.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Everyone's welcome.
Yep. Everyone's welcome. Everyone's welcome.
So Ashley, for people who want to get started at Othership, how can they go about doing that?
So I would recommend starting with the 2-week pass that we offer. So it's an incredible deal. It's 2 weeks, 14 days for $99.
Wow.
And the reason that I love this is that you actually get to try out all the different classes that we have. So maybe you want to try out the free flows, which is just, being in the space, or the classes, or try out the socials. So you get to kind of see which one really speak to you, so then you know what you're going to do moving forward. So I would suggest starting with that.
Awesome.
And the way you can do that is just go on Instagram. We are at Othership and sign up. And I hope to
Fantastic.
see everyone there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for being here.
Thank
So
you.
grateful. So
Thank
grateful.
you, thank you,
I know we all lead very busy lives. I just thought we could close perhaps by doing a little bit of a breath work.
Yeah,
Just to
I
kind
would
of
love that.
get us into a zen and have a great rest of the day.
Fantastic. Let's
Okay.
do that. So I'm going to invite everybody who's listening as well to close your eyes. And let's take a deep breath in and exhale. With your eyes closed, just tuning into any tension that you might be holding in your body. Bringing your awareness there. Taking another deep breath in and exhale. Now taking this moment to check in. How am I feeling? How am I doing? Just one word that comes to mind without any judgment. Let's take another deep breath in and sigh it out. Another breath in. Exhale. And one more breath in. All the way to the top, creating some tension in your body. Another sip in. And let it go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming.
So grateful.
So great to see you.
Thank you.
And I'll see you at your class on Saturday night.
Yes, you better. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.